the responsibility for the catastrophe in Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan did not fall on women or people of color, okay? They're not responsible for that. Those were our political leaders who made those mistakes. And as last I checked, they were all white men. So where is the responsibility for them? Where?
So what I think let's just call it for what it is, the so-called woke.
A former Fox News host summoned every top general and admiral in America to Quantico, described by one defense official as something that could have been an email, to lecture them about fat soldiers, dudes in dresses, and gender delusions. The general sat stoic, barely any applause. If the military has been failing, who exactly failed it? The answer is not women. The answer is not DEI. Let's get into it.
He gathered the nation's foremost military leaders to scold them. In a last-minute gathering at Quantico, which one defense official says could have been an email, Pete Hegseth painted the military as deeply broken, an institution in serious need of reform. In nearly 45 minutes, and a lecture at that, Hegseth declared an end to woke within the ranks.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. We are done with that shit. For every designated combat arms position returns to the highest male standard only. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign.
Joining us at the table are two military veterans, Troy Olson, co-author of The Emerging Populist Majority and legislative director for a Republican New York City councilwoman. Also with us, Paul Rieckhoff, founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America and host of the Independent Americans podcast. The one thought I had listening to this 45-minute speech was, don't we have bigger fish to fry? Like China, like drone warfare, like Russia on the march? I cannot imagine that people's beards rise to the level of dragging all the military admirals and generals into Quantico for a lecture. I'm not understanding this.
Sounds like you're into the beardos.
I don't get it. Somebody explain it to me.
I think you're right. And I think that's the problem. It's unprecedented. It's unacceptable. It's overtly political and partisan. And if you watch that speech, whether you were a general or just someone on TV, you'd think that our enemies are fat generals, the city of Portland, Trump's political enemies, and DEI. And it's a really low point for the division that's supposed to exist between our partisan politics and our military. The shining part of it, the silver lining, if you will, is that the generals kept their military bearing. They didn't applaud. They were stoic, and they showed why they are the guardrails that are protecting our military and much of our democracy from what is a very extreme political agenda that, from Hegseth, sounded kind of like a culture war TED Talk, rather than a proper, respectful address to our senior military leaders.
I want to play a little bit more from Hegseth. This is where he's talking about those pesky rules of engagement.
We are preparing every day. We have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters.
Troy, I mean, is the argument here, let's go back to like barbarian warfare where there are no rules of engagement, everything goes, you know, no such thing as a war crime. You can do whatever you want. Is that the argument?
So warfare.
He called out fat troops and fat generals by category. He declared an end to identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses, climate change focus, and gender delusions. He said combat roles would return to the highest male standard only. And if that means no women qualify, so be it. He told any leader whose heart sank to resign. Then he called for an end to stupid rules of engagement and demanded maximum lethality without constraint. Paul Rieckhoff named it immediately. This was not a speech to the warrior class. It was a culture war, TED Talk delivered to television cameras, designed to signal ideological control over the most powerful military institution in the world. The generals sat with military bearing and gave almost no applause. That restraint was its own statement. Abby Phillip asked the question that demolished the entire premise. If the military has been failing, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, who is responsible? The answer is documented, and it is not women or people of color. Those wars were authorized and prosecuted by political leaders who were overwhelmingly white men.
Something that is very hard to write down in the international law, the law of war. I would say what we heard here today was not a speech for the pundit class or the journalist class or even the generals and admirals in that room. I think it was a speech for the warrior class. And he spoke about the warrior class a lot in his book, on his show, and he's building that military. And by warrior class, he means the few families across this country and the same towns that have, since we become an all-volunteer force, have consistently bore the brunt and the sacrifice, especially in the post-9/11 era, of that service. And I think he's speaking directly to them. And these are the 65% of the veteran population that voted for the Trump-Vance ticket for President Trump.
And
that's why I think he's
what is the message? What's the message to them? Is the message, again, I think my question is...
The message is come back.
We're
back.
In a concrete way. When he says the stupid rules of engagement, let's also remember that this is the Pete Hegseth who lobbied President Trump to pardon people who were convicted of war crimes. So is that what we're saying? We're okay with war crimes now?
I mean, obviously, we're okay with war crimes. We support a country that's committing atrocities right now.
But I mean, the United States military.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying the rules are actually written down. They're called the Geneva Convention. And most of the modern world and Western world abides by them because it's a code of conduct. It's what holds us above the standards of our enemies. But the audience was not the warrior class. It wasn't the generals. It was the TV cameras. It was the base. And maybe it was the world in some way because they wanted to say, look, we have control over the most powerful military on the planet. And there's nothing that the Democrats or the moderate Republicans or anyone else can do. So it was a giant flex of their culture war, of their ideology, of the way they want to reimagine not just the military, but the country. That's really what this was. And that's why I think it's such a low point for our military, because they're again being dragged into some of the most divisive issues of our time.
For over 2 decades, we've been fighting wars to fight them, not to win them. And we need to build a military.
Did you and I not fight to win?
We fought to win, but the politicians and a lot of senior leadership did not fight to win.
Why do you say that?
We didn't have clear goals.
A lot of those senior leaders in the room,
we did not have
decorated veterans who served in
We
Iraq
did not
and
follow
Afghanistan
a doctrine that goes in with overwhelming force.
It felt pretty overwhelming at times.
Right, but we stayed there for 20 years, and we abandoned it with the fall of Saigon on live TV with people falling out of an airplane.
Troy, are you arguing that there was not the use of overwhelming force when we bombed the crap out of Iraq? Is that really the argument?
No, the argument is that we fought for 20 years. We did take out terrorist networks. We took out the network and the leader who attacked this city in the largest terrorist attack in world history. And we also engaged in nation building. And these were very abstract missions.
How's that a problem with the war? I mean, I'm not understanding. Why is that a problem for the war fighters and not the politicians who decided that the answer to that problem was war, a war that that didn't make sense to fight, we couldn't win.
When I was in Iraq.
That's a political problem, it seems like to me, not a military problem.
When I was in government, I was in Iraq 5 times.
The generals who executed flawed strategies were selected and promoted by administrations that looked nothing like the diverse military Hegseth is now purging. The people being removed are not the ones who failed. The people who made those decisions are now running the Department of Defense. The rules of engagement argument is particularly dangerous. Hegseth has a documented history of lobbying Trump to pardon service members convicted of war crimes. When he talks about untying warfighters' hands, the panel was right to ask, what rules exactly? The Geneva Conventions are not political correctness. They are the legal framework separating military conduct from war crimes, protecting American prisoners of war through reciprocity, and maintaining the moral standing of a force that must be distinct from the enemies it fights. Eroding those rules does not make the military more lethal. It makes it more dangerous. The female general's purge is not incidental. It is the policy. After Admiral Franchetti's departure, the military had no women in 4-star positions for the first time in decades. When Phillip pressed on why, when women are helping meet recruiting goals and passing fitness requirements, men are failing. The conservative panelists' answer was that promoting qualified women to maintain representation would itself be DEI. That circular logic means the outcome is predetermined. Women can be removed on ideological grounds but cannot be promoted on meritocratic ones. The standard only flows in one direction: sexual assault in the military. Over 8,000 complaints in a single year went unanswered by the speech's defenders. If the concern is readiness and unit cohesion, that documented crisis produces far more operational damage than any diversity program. Hegseth did not address it at Quantico, because addressing it honestly would require acknowledging that the culture problem in the military is not wokeness. It is the culture of impunity that allows assault to go unreported and unpunished.
By this defense secretary, he has, since Trump's been president, essentially presided over the elimination of women in the highest ranks of the military. According to military.com, Franchetti, who was the last person who was fired, has left the military without a single woman in a 4-star general or admiral position. And many female officers say that they're concerned that their ouster will have far-reaching consequences. Why the obsession with that when actually it's women who are helping the military meet their recruiting goals? Because they meet the fitness requirements, they meet the intelligence requirements, when men don't and aren't.
If men can't meet the requirements, they don't get selected for those roles either. What he's arguing for is one combat standard. Combat is a very, harsh reality, and there needs to be one standard that's set by what the battlefield realities actually are, not two different standards. Throughout the military, you have a male PT test, you have a female PT test. For the combat area, he's arguing that it should be one PT test,
Sure.
and I agree with that.
Why did he fire all these?
That we have the best leaders in 80 years.
Why did he fire all
80 years
of
ago,
these
we had the best
female-
generals and admirals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did he fire all of these female generals and admirals? Why is it that it seems like there was a purge that happened when Trump
There was a
came
purge before
came
World
into
War II as well.
Of
We
women?
did not have, of generals.
So why are they
and higher
firing only?
ranking-
Why are they firing? Not, I shouldn't say only, but why are they firing to the point of eliminating women in high-ranking roles in the military?
Because they're tasked with the defense of this country, and the Department of War, which has a much better track record for winning wars and waging them with clarity than the Department of Defense era has, where we've gotten into Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. And he is building out the military that is to wage wars, and hopefully we rarely have to fight
What
them.
does that
And
have
if
to
we
do
do,
with women?
it's over.
What he's doing is
Pete Hegseth gathered the world's most experienced military leaders in one room, a security risk in itself, as one panelist noted, to lecture them about beards, body fat, and gender ideology. He did not discuss China's military expansion. He did not address drone warfare or the emerging technological battlefield. He did not talk about recruitment shortfalls, retention crises, or the documented mental health emergency among veterans. He talked about dudes in dresses, a phenomenon that exists in his rhetorical imagination rather than in any military formation anyone on that panel could identify. The generals sat stoic because they are professionals. They did not applaud because they understood what they were watching. A man who was not qualified for this job, who got it because he was loyal, intelligent, and willing to perform, stood in front of the best military leaders in the world and told them the problem was their politics. Phillip asked where the accountability is for the actual failures: Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. And the answer was deflection, because the accountability would land on the people now being celebrated, not the people being purged. That is not a military readiness agenda. It is a political one wearing a uniform it did not earn. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this speech will accelerate the military's recruiting crisis, or will the base respond the way Hegseth is betting they will? And what do you make of a defense secretary who lobbied for pardons of convicted war criminals now declaring the rules of engagement too restrictive? I want to hear where you stand. Subscribe. We will keep tracking what is being done to the institution that defends this country.